Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 18th of November, comes to you from London. And the dollar index just a little bit flat this morning, but it's had a very good week. We see these two big weekly candles here on the weekly chart. This is the weekly, daily, and 60-minute long-term, medium-term, and short-term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure targets. So this gives us a multifaceted view of what's happening. So we see the dollar index just the last 24 hours has just given up a little bit of ground, but on the whole, holding bullish on all three time frames above the cloud. Looking at the euro, of course, that means that we are still in a downtrend against the dollar, and significantly this week we are starting to go below the long-term cloud. So that's quite significant. The dollar yen was nudging 115 yesterday. That was a multi-year high. So that's good news for the dollar, just pulling back a little bit this morning. Sterling sitting at 135 exactly as we look, and we see this trend continuing, just pushing down on the medium term. So we are just seeing a little bit of recovery. Of course, UK inflation numbers out yesterday have helped sterling a little bit with expectations of interest rates. And against the euro, we saw a big jump this week. We've seen a really big move, and that's what those inflation numbers have done. So sterling has really now got the upper hand against the euro with interest rate expectations. Looking at Bitcoin, we're sitting at just below the $60,000 mark. We seem to found support and waiting really for where we go next, if we break lower or break higher. But the long-term picture is still one that is bullish. The S&P 500 index was down 0.25% yesterday, but it looks like it will regain that today because the futures this morning are up 0.25%. So we're seeing the market just seesawing slightly. Of course, we go into Thanksgiving next week. Taking a look at the European indices, we've got the DAX in Germany up very slightly, the CAC 40 up 0.2%, and in Japan last night we were down 0.16%. So we are still holding the bullish trends there just. Taking a look at the Hang Seng, there's been a lot of volatility in Hong Kong. Chinese property shares haven't helped of late, and we see that general trend down, very different trend from US and European markets. So not looking good there for the Hang Seng. And in India, we were down 0.75%, so pushing lower there as well. No, 0.75% lower. Looking at the energy mix, we'll take a look at that in a minute, but we're seeing still strong performances from soft commodities. Wheat had a very strong week last week, breaking higher to new all-time highs, and that's given us multi-year highs, and that's given us targets to the upside. Looking at gold, we're down slightly this morning, but holding in the high 1800s, so holding on to the gains that we've seen this month, so still looking pretty strong. Silver is very slightly up this morning, but again, crossing above the cloud, looking more bullish than it has done. US 10-year yield sitting at 1.59%, just giving up a little bit of ground, but of course the trend is edging higher there. We saw that the longer term chart, we've edged higher from middle of last year, a little bit of a consolidation most of this year, and now we're on the start of a new upward leg. We've got targets to 1.75, 1.79%, so it does look like we will see the bond markets and bond yields going higher. The energy mix this morning, we're seeing Brent Crude down 0.5%. We've got a short-term target there. We did break that 81 support level, so that's quite key. On WTI, much the same picture, of course, and we are seeing really signs of a lower high and a lower low, so that is not good for crude oil. Looks like 85 was the high for WTI. US nat gas, we're actually more bullish this morning. We've got a couple of upside targets here to 507, and so that's we've made a bullish call to clients this morning. Coal recovered a little bit of ground yesterday, finding some support on the cloud, not quite enough to get it through on the 60-minute chart, but looking better. Emissions have broken this week, of course, to a new all-time high, but we are just giving up some of that gain this morning. Again, we are neutral there. Gas markets, of course, have been really volatile this week in Europe, and we've seen a little bit of a pullback this morning, but for the moment it's a hard call. We just have to wait for the targets, and we've got targets in both directions there on TTF. And German power was looking more bearish with two downside targets this morning, so that's quite key as well. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you there.